Hey, welcome, folks. Welcome back. We're excited to have you here. We've got another great show already for you. Good evening, teams, and welcome to the FRC FTC Virtual Roundup presented by Ohio First. My name is Jean Dar, and I'll be your host for tonight's virtual meetup. I'm located in Cleveland, Ohio. Handling the controls tonight from his home near Austintown, Ohio, is my wingman, Andy Antes, one of Ohio's outstanding first senior mentors. And joining us from our Mission Control Center in Minnesota is Susan Lawrence. She's the Director of First Field Operations for the Midwest region. Now, before we begin, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to those teams joining us from outside the Buckeye State who regularly attend Ohio's regional tournaments or our off-season events. Speaking on behalf of all of us here at Ohio First, we're thrilled to have you with us, and we look forward to your input. In fact, we want to know who's watching. So if you haven't already done so, please open the chat and enter your name, your team number, your team's hometown, and the first program that you're affiliated with. This information is invaluable. It'll help us to better understand our reach, and more importantly, it'll help us to develop future programming that better meets your needs. Well, we've got another great show all lined up for you tonight. First, Representative Susan Lawrence and Andy Antes, who you heard me mention a moment ago, they're here with an update from First Headquarters, and they've got a breakdown of what that update means for teams in this region. In tonight's roundtable discussion, we'll focus our attention on rookie teams and how veteran teams can be more supportive. In our tips and techniques segment, Ohio senior mentor Andy Antes will be back again to answer your questions about the Chairman's Award and to explain what the judges are looking for and what it takes to weave your unique story into an award-winning presentation. It'll be awesome. And we'll wrap up tonight's meeting with a new segment that shines a spotlight on one deserving mentor each month. We'll find out who that mentor is for this month, what they do for a living, and how they got involved in First, and what keeps them coming back later on tonight. All of that plus First trivia, great prizes, and more on tonight's edition of the Virtual Roundup. But before we get to that, let's check on the latest updates from First Headquarters. Here to explain the most recent updates and to provide a breakdown of what those updates mean for teams in this region, please welcome back to the Roundup Susan Lawrence, Director of First Field Operations for the Midwest region, and Andy Antes, Senior Mentor for Ohio.
Hi, folks. Good to have you all here tonight. Mostly, there are a couple of reminders that Andy and I would like to put in front of you. One, remember that the registration system, actually the pre-registration system is open, so you can go out and update all your team mentor information. Mentors that need recertification for YPP literally are flying through. So it's a great time to do it. Want to remind you all to take a look at Frank's note that came out that is talking about the elimination of bill of materials for this year, and also other non-game related rule changes. Game-related rule changes will come at kickoff as they always do. First is working hard, and I do mean working hard. We're getting pinged, trying to figure out what FRC looks like next season, what the competitions will look like. Frank has promised us something in August, by the end of August, and they are certainly working hard to get there. On an FTC note, I hope you all looked at the teaser today, just to see what they had to say and see if you can guess what the heck they're talking about. Andy, do you have anything?
No, I just wanted to remind everybody about that non-game related update from Frank. He put that in the blog post on the 19th, and that is telling us about the elimination of the bill of materials for the 2021 season, with them possibly eliminating that altogether. So they're going to be looking at that closely this next coming year. So that's a big deal. Just to read through those rules and see what they, eliminating the bill of materials, but not eliminating the maximum individual part price is still the same. So that was the big from my standpoint.
You still need to be able to discuss that with them, show them things. If they suspect that something you have that was provided is worth more than $500. So be prepared to review that with them at inspection.
Wow, those are some great updates. That'll certainly give us something that we should be looking for. Thank you both for those important updates. Susan, we know that you're busy, but we hope that you can stick around a bit longer. Andy, of course, will be back later for he's one of our featured presenters in one of our upcoming segments. So I'm kind of excited about that. By the way, folks, we're going to keep the chat open throughout tonight's meeting, so please feel free to use it. Drop any additional questions that you might have about these updates for Susan or Andy, and they'll get back to you and of course answer you directly. Well, there it is. That cheesy music means that it's time for tonight's first trivia question. Before we start, let's review some basic ground rules. Only one answer per person. All answers must be entered into the chat. Winners will be chosen at random from all the correct answers. By the way, folks, the prizes for tonight's show were donated by the Education Outreach Office at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. This includes t-shirts, buttons, and other great first swag. And now, if you're ready, here's your first question. How many rookie teams registered for the 2020 first robotic competition season? Again, how many rookie teams were registered for the last season? We'll give you a few moments to think about it, and we'll come back with the answer. Good luck, everybody. Well, folks, now it's time for tonight's virtual roundtable segment. Tonight's discussion topic is how can we better support rookie teams? We hope to start a conversation that will identify some of the common needs and come up with some possible solutions for further study and evaluation. Our ultimate goal is to develop a series of successful strategies that can help new teams hit the ground running and to sustain that momentum for the long term. Before we begin, here's some ground rules. Please remember to practice gracious professionalism throughout tonight's discussion. Remember, there are no bad ideas here. Don't forget to mute your mic when you're not speaking. And of course, please remember to give everyone a chance to share their thoughts and ideas. As always, you're welcome to use the chat to share your ideas or your questions if you're uncomfortable speaking on the mic. And now, if you're ready, let's begin tonight's conversation with this question. Looking back on your rookie season, what is the one thing that you wish you knew before you got started? Jimmy? I know that you've been around for a while. It might take you a while to think back that far, but when your team first got started, what were some of the things that you wish that you had known?
So I started with 1038. It was their third season when I started, and uh, like you said, it's hard to think back. Back when I started, I was just a mentor. I didn't have any other responsibilities. Dave Campbell ran the whole program. He did everything. We just kind of showed up and worked with the kids. I guess maybe it would have been nice to have maybe shadowed him a little bit more. Maybe when we transitioned the team over to Paul and I and some of the other mentors, it would have made it an easier transition. I guess that's something that would have been nice to have maybe shadowed Dave and learned a little bit more about the ins and outs before it was thrust upon us to learn.
That's
That's the only thing
interesting.
I can
So
think of.
if I hear you correctly, what you're saying is you wish that there had been some shadowing opportunities. That would have helped you as a new mentor, and that might be very helpful for new mentors for new teams as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Okay,
We've
Kathy
offered
Allen?
that for some folks regionally before, but nobody's really taken us up on that.
Gotcha.
So John Dar, Susan here. One of the things that I continually hear from teams, and it's not unique to the WOW area, is that we tell them always we're assigning a veteran mentor to you, a veteran mentor team. And the worst mistake you can make is not reaching out either to them or to others, because we really do have a community that focuses on helping. Whether you're a rookie or a veteran team, if you have questions, the worst thing you can do is not to ask. And they kind of don't catch on to that completely until they're at an event. So I don't know how we reinforce that.
That's a really, really good point. I know that the only model that most rookie teams have is the sports models, football, basketball, etc., within their home schools. And in that kind of model, it almost seems counterintuitive to reach out to ask people for help. It's always an us versus them, and that's so different from what we have at first. I think if we sit around waiting for rookie teams to reach out to us, to ask us for help, we're waiting too long. It might be their third or fourth season before they feel comfortable enough to reach out. Perhaps the better way to go is what you're suggesting, that you're doing so well in other places. Assign a veteran team to reach out to them and then to begin working with them continuously. That's a great idea. Kathy Allen, we've got you on the line. What would you like? What is it that you wish that you had known?
To be honest, I was overwhelmed. I was just a parent that never heard anything about FIRST. I was just blown away, and I think we did the Battle of the Bluegrass and down in Corbin, Kentucky. The last year that we did it, they did everybody who had a beta bot brought it. Anybody that was interested in forming a team or rookie teams, they used the beta bot and competed. So they were able to get into the pit, had their own pit. They were buddied with another team that provided the robot. So they were able to drive and feel the excitement of the moment. So that's something that we did with Corbin.
Kathy, I want to make sure that I'm hearing you correctly. And if I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds like the teams that participated in this off-season event made an additional robot that rookie teams, teams that would be starting in the upcoming season, would have a chance to see and to operate at that event so that they could participate as well.
Yeah, well, at that time we were also we had two robots. One was a practice bot and one was our competition bot. So you brought your practice bot and the other team was able to, may not have been in the best condition, but they were able to sport a drive team. They're able to work the pit. Everybody's around them. If you need help, we're here to help you. And they got that experience, and you can feel the excitement of the event.
I think that that's an outstanding idea. What better way for brand new students and for mentors to be welcomed into the program than to have the chance to not only see a robot, but to operate one as well. And once they're there, they're hooked.
Exactly. That's why I have no background in engineering. I have a business degree. They now call me the mom engineer. I'm a mom engineer. I don't know anything. I don't know how to use a screwdriver, but you get it. You get caught. And when you start going to competition, that's when you get hooked. It's the energy and
I love it.
that's when you get hooked.
I love it. I love it. Jeff Richards, we've got you with us as well. Jeff, what's the one thing that you wish you had known before you got started?
I really think just how to get, the team started. It seemed like a lot of times that's that first time is what do you do first, right? And just, one of the things I like to kind of, when I talk to a new team, whether it's FTC, FRC, is kind of walk them through, okay, when you get to tournament day, this is what it's going to be like. And that's what you need to prepare your team for. And then you can kind of walk backwards from there to say, okay, now what, if that's your end goal, if that's where you're going to be, what do you need to do? I mean, because I remember the first time I did FTC, the whole alliance selection and all of that kind of stuff was totally foreign to me. So explaining people what that tournament experience is going to be like and what you have to do to get ready for it, I think is one of the things that could be very helpful.
Okay. Mike's here. He's with Team 3193. Mike, what's the one thing that you wish you had known before you started? Mike might still be on mute.
Yes, it was. Thanks. Okay, so I've been doing this now for 18 years with a team, and I was just I'm a mechanical engineer working with a large group for probably about 7 years before I split off and formed 3193. You with that many years, and you have a lot of experience as to what to expect, but the little ins and outs, all the team management, what administrative issues, you know that they're there, and as they came up, oh yeah, we also need to do this. Oh yeah, we also need to do that, and we were better prepared with my experience that they're a rookie year, but at the same time, we were definitely rookies, just trying to do it completely on our own. We did have Team 48 helping us out. We had but at that time, it was started, and so we didn't really have a partnership with all of the teams in the area working together. So with all that said, I would say probably the one thing that I've seen from other rookie teams is that I'm a high school sports mentality where it is us against the world, and they understand how much help is out there, and how much other teams are willing to help, and they don't see that until usually it's way too late. Usually it's on a day one of the competition, and they see 10 other students and engineers running from all other teams trying to help them get their robot built. They just don't understand. And if there was a way just to get them to kind of force feed that into them, just that there is help out there, I think that's number one thing to try to help them rookies with is just that there is so much help out there.
Great. So if I heard everybody correctly, some shadowing opportunities, the idea of assigning a veteran team as mentors, being able to participate in off-season events and being able to operate practice robots was really important. Figuring out what to do first, how to get started, how to recruit students, how to recruit mentors, all of those things were really important. I like all of these, all of the things that you've shared. And now that we've put these things on the table, I'd like you to think back And I want you to think specifically, be specific. What kind of support would you have wanted from a veteran team? If we can assign a veteran team to all of those rookie teams, what kinds of things should those veteran teams come prepared with? What support would you like from those veteran teams? Why don't we start with you, Jimmy?
Andy was chatting with me. You're going to have to ask that question again. I apologize.
Question was, thinking back, what kind of support would you have wanted from a veteran team in your area, or from FIRST on a state or even on a regional level?
I would go. I would have to concur with Andy, or I'm sorry, with Mike, that thinking back to having to learn all of the logistics stuff. Like, I had never booked hotels. I had never booked, like, for a massive amount of people. I've never booked charter buses. You know, I'd never tried to, you know, collect travel fees and do all that kind of administrative NEMO, as we call it, NEMO, non-engineering mentor stuff that I'd never done any of that kind of stuff before. And so having some guidance around that, you know, the non-engineering, the administrative stuff, that's where having some assistance with that kind of stuff, especially, you know, being a community-based program, we don't have, you know, we didn't have the backing of a school system who does that stuff on a regular basis to be able to do it for us. I recall when we were at the school and Dave was running the team, he would just say, hey, I need a bus. They would handle getting all the quotes and then just say, okay, here's your bus and here's your itinerary.
Gotcha.
And, you know, having to handle all that on our own just was overwhelming at the beginning. Now, you know, it's down to a science. But
what about you, Kathy? What kind of support would you have wanted from a veteran team in your area?
I think for our team is unusual. It's a rare. We are run by women, and we have a few. Our other assistant coach, he's an engineer, but at times there were moments where we needed more technical assistance. There, you know, to be honest, I'm the business side, as Jimmy was pointing out, that's our forte. That's where we're fundraising. We all have OCD. We can make a list like nobody's business. But sometimes, you know, if Dave was out of town, well, we needed more technical assistance. So
I know some teams that could really lean on you to.
well, please reach out. We can write a book on that.
You know, speaking of books, didn't Katie at one time have a rookie cookbook, a mentor's guide that went out to new teams? Was that helpful? Did anybody use that?
I've never seen that, but that would be, you know, what to expect from the mentor's point of view. You know, even just you're going to have different. Each kid is different. You can't treat each kid the same. A lot of our kids, they're introverts. This is their first time being on a team, you know, not even knowing what to expect from that team environment. That was we went from a single school team to a 5-school team. We had to work on the rivalry part. Everybody, well, you're blue and you're orange and you're my rival and
Sure.
I don't like you. So we had that for a while. So I think that would be great, you know, just from, you know, the technical aspect of it, but what to expect from the kids, because they can get real squirrely all of a sudden. One minute they're fine and the next minute they're up a tree.
So this is Pete. You read that manual that Katie put out, and it's really good material, but it's actually something most teams do for their own team. They assemble all the right links, all the right information, you know, and I don't think that the book itself was something that was written for necessarily the kids or the mentors. Sorry, it's my bird in the background. It's trying to get my attention. But it's not written for the mentors or for the kids. It's written for, this is a collection of knowledge about FIRST, a shortcut to learn as much as you possibly can. So I'm not sure it is the right tool for mentors. It's certainly a useful tool but not the only thing we should be using. And the other problem is that those kinds of tools, once they're assembled, especially with links and references, they quickly go out of date. So it requires constant maintenance and constant refresh. And that's overwhelming for anybody.
It can certainly be overwhelming, but I agree with you. It could be a useful resource. I think it might have to be updated and used on a global level, and that doesn't take away from what teams have to do individually. Cool. We're running short on time for this segment. What type of online or off-season workshops would have been helpful for rookie teams? It would have been helpful for the students, for coaches and mentors, and perhaps there should be something else for parents and caregivers. What are your thoughts, Mike or Pete?
So certainly CAD, training in CAD is very helpful, computer-aided design. If you have a team with 2 or 3 operators that are very good with CAD, it accelerates everything you do during the season before. That's helpful. Also, workshops on major subsystems, which I think have been given from time to time by many teams, and they're also online also, but things like shooters, things like ball collectors, drive systems, those are how you build your robot. And the teams that are rookies don't have a library of past practice on how to develop a shooter, okay? And no matter how much follow the YouTube instructions from Cheesy Poo, somebody else, they actually don't talk about the most important aspects of that subsystem. They normally leave that out and talk really about just how it operates, okay? So, giving teams a basis in key subsystems.
That sounds like it makes a lot of sense. Mike, did you have some thoughts with regards to that?
As I'm somebody with that in CAD pretty much all my life, I admit I'm an engineer. I'm not a teacher, and so I find it hard. I mean, it's one thing to teach students how to make parts in CAD and how to put them together. To try to teach them though the ins and outs of physics and complicated engineering and moments of inertia and forces and impacts and how to design for all of that. Friction. It's very difficult to teach kids. I know that there are kids that are able to onto. It's difficult. I'm a subject to teach. It almost has to be more than just CAD. It's almost like you have to teach engineering 101. You're a freshman or sophomore year at college.
I'm sorry, I lost you there for a second.
That's okay. Yeah, it just helps to have that you almost need to teach engineering 101 or a 102 from your first years of college. But I will also agree with Kathy about that it's also I was not blessed to be a parent. Andy and my other cohorts, they're all parents, so it's that I'm a child psychology that and a lot of parents already know, trying to figure out, because yes, kids are all the same, so I would like to see perhaps maybe something on a child psychology, deal with troubled kids. What happens when a kid tells you no? What exactly to do? You can't haul off and hit them. Can't yell at them. You gotta work with them, and just some of those little things that those of us who aren't parents have to learn how to do.
Well, we've gone over with this particular segment, but you've certainly given us some things to talk about. I'll be reaching out to each one of you individually to talk a little bit more about some of the things that we've discussed and to share some ideas. There might be some opportunities for you and your students to help us put together some training videos that we might be able to use. Nothing long or elaborate, something short, 5 to 10 minutes, but that covers some of the basic things that we've talked about. We'll look into the cookbook idea. We'll see what we can do and what might work, and try to pull out those things that wouldn't. And we'll also look at some of the other things that you guys have discussed here as well. I think that there's some great opportunities for some training, and we can pull a lot of great information from YouTube and put that in one place, perhaps on a future website for Ohio First that teams would be able to go to. It could be sort of your one-stop shop for all types of information. We'll see what we can come up with, and we'll talk about that at an upcoming mentors meeting. Thanks everybody for a great roundtable discussion, and we'll try to implement some of these ideas as soon as we can. We are a bit behind schedule, but it is time to get back to that first trivia question. As you may remember, the question was, how many rookie teams were registered for the 2020 FIRST Robotics competition season? It's a great question. Here, folks, is your answer. According to FIRST headquarters, 337 rookie teams representing 34 countries were registered during the season. Now, Andy, you're going to have to help me out. How many correct answers did we have?
We had one.
Outstanding. Congratulations. Who was that winner?
The one was Jimmy Nichols.
Jimmy Nichols, of course. Why am I not surprised? Jimmy, you've won one of tonight's first swag bags. So congratulations to you. And for the rest of you, if you weren't the winner, don't worry. Here's another trivia question and another chance for you to win. Now, the only thing that we ask is that you remember there's only one answer per team, or one answer per person, and make sure that you put it in the chat. Here's your question, folks. Who was the last team from the WOW Alliance, which includes Western and Central Pennsylvania, Ohio, and West Virginia, to win a championship Chairman's Award? Once again, who was the last team from the WOW Alliance to win the championship Chairman's Award? We'll give you some time to think about it. And speaking of awards, it's time for a tips and techniques segment. And we've got a great segment for you. Now, as you know, the Chairman's Award is one of the major team awards that can be earned at a regional or district tournament. It is the most prestigious award that a FIRST team can receive, and it honors the team that best represents a model for other teams to emulate and embodies the goals and ideals of FIRST. FIRST is more than robots, as you know, and this award is designed to encourage teams to stretch beyond their skills, the skills that are required to build a robot, and it rewards them for helping to build something more over time. And that something more is a better, smarter community. FIRST teams are tasked with helping to transform the culture of their communities in long-lasting ways to inspire greater levels of respect for science, technology, engineering, and math. Back to tell us more about this award and what it takes to be a Chairman's Award winner is Andy, our first senior mentor for Ohio. Andy, take it away.
Well, thank you so much, and thanks to myself for having to put this together in 2 days. So I named this. I put this up. I called it Chairman's Award Essay Writing. It's going to actually be absolutely nothing about writing essays for Chairman's Awards whatsoever. So what we're going to start off with is the description of what is the Chairman's Award, and it says basically, my big thing is what I put in here is what is the Chairman's Award. The part I highlighted here is it honors the team that best represents a model for other teams to emulate and best embodies the mission of FIRST. So I took that. I'm like, well, okay, so what do we look at? So we're looking at embodying the mission of FIRST. So what is the mission of FIRST? See, I'm good. It's able to copy and paste with the rest of us. The mission of FIRST is to inspire young people to be science and technology leaders and innovators. And I also put in there as well the vision from Mr. Dean Kamen to transform our culture by creating a world where science, technology are celebrated and where young people dream of becoming science and technology leaders, engaging the methodologies. How are we gonna to get to this is engaging kids in kindergarten through high school and exciting mentor-based research and robotics programs that help them become science and technology leaders, as well as well-rounded contributors to society. And it's one of the things I've always looked at, and I was like, and I was reading through this as I was creating this presentation to try to get everyone in our region to understand. It's like, well, what are we doing with this? What are we trying to do? What are we getting our kids into when they're trying to, I do this to a different set of kids every year on my team. I'm like going, hey, you need to start working on your chairman's essay. What is the chairman's essay? And here's what it is. This is what we're doing is basically we're looking for leaders and innovators, right? We're looking for community support. So I took what we said here, through our mission and through what we're looking for as a Chairman's Award winner, and we go, and the very first thing, and the thing I saw a lot of is leadership. So basically, we're looking for leadership. We're looking for leaders. And a simple definition is that a leadership is the art of motivating a group of people to act towards achieving a common goal. So I'd ask that our people who are looking at in the teams, as they're putting their stuff together, what is your common goal? Our common goal on a yearly basis can be many different things. It could be, we're building a robot. We're building a robot to compete. That's a common goal that all teams have every year. Other goals that we can have is, starting a Lego League team, starting a junior Lego League team, or I want to help this team. I want to help this FRC team. I want to help this FT. What are your goals? And you're going to create those goals, and that's your leadership. So you have that common goal that you guys can work together to drive what your team is and does. And the next thing was community. A community where basically, again, I like to define it that a group of people who have similar interests and who want to achieve something together. I like to think of, we have different communities, right? So we have a bunch of different communities. We have our local community, our school community, or you're a community school or a community team. So you have that local community, but we also, and first we have the FRC community, or we have the FTC community. We have a Lego League community, or we have, so we have, our communities are not just centralized into that one item, but can grow out to being the WOW area, where we're looking at Western Pennsylvania, we're looking at West Virginia, we're looking at anywhere in Ohio. I'm looking at Kentucky. I'm looking at Indiana. Our community can be as big as the world if we want it to be. But when we're looking at what we're going to do as leaders and how we're going to find that common goal and work together, what are we going to work on together? We have to define what's that community, what are we working towards, and how we're getting there. So next we come to outreach, and our outreach is and this was a hard one to find. Okay, so is the act of extending community services to a wider selection of population is the definition I chose specifically for this. As you can see, I say find the need, right? Find what is missing in your community and where there is a need. Is it the fact that we're in a different world right now, and this is something I've been thinking about every day, is how do we provide some sort of STEM resource to kids that can't meet or can't get together right now? Is there some way that we can provide some sort of service to keep the kids interacted and working and doing stuff, right? So you find that need, and you find that fun thing. I said the pictures I pulled, amazingly enough, stuff that I had on my computer, right? The picture there on the right is a group of basically two teams locally. We actually got to speak with local congressmen about FIRST Robotics and what we were doing before we went to a competition. Picture on the left is a picture of that I set up at a local hockey game to be able to promote FIRST and robotics at the hockey game. So when you're thinking about your outreach, I'd like you guys to think outside of the box, right? Yes, you know, it used to be very easy. We go to air shows. I know people in Southern Ohio, they get the air show. We go to the state fair. We go to county fairs. This stuff, we don't have that right now. So being able to find that community and then finding where's that need right now. I mean, so that we're used to those common needs. Now we're looking for that unique need because there's a need out there. There's a need for somebody to do something. So we need to find that and get it together. So then we come up and I said, okay, so now we have our leadership, we've got our community, and we find our need, and we're going to execute that. We're going to take our strengths as people and as teams, and we're going to work together to make something positive. The picture I chose here, John Darrell recognized it, said this was our off-season event at the Great Lakes Science Center. This was a very positive thing, not only for FIRST in Ohio, but also for the Great Lakes Science Center to be able to pull something off inside their facility, to be able to promote FIRST and STEM in their thing, and being able to pull that off and trying to continue to make that a successful event to get people to understand what we're all about, right? And so we go through and we find that need, and we're going to execute that need, and we're going to make it happen, right? So as I said, it's like coming to where we are when we write the chairman's essay, or I don't like it. You're not telling the kids, hey, I need to go sit down and write an essay. No, the kids are sitting down and writing down basically things that you guys are already doing on a daily, monthly, yearly basis. And you guys have been doing this for years as teams. When you're a rookie team, you're coming in and you're starting to create these plans and create these things, and you're growing your connection to your community. So I'm not, I said it's funny. I'm like, I'm going to tell you how to write a chairman's award essay. I said, everybody's chairman's essay is different. Nothing's going to look the same. Everything's going to be just a tad bit different because everybody does something different. Everyone has that different community. So what I ask you to do when you're writing your chairman's essay is to write down what your team is doing. You guys are all positive role models. You guys are all leaders in your communities, and you guys just need to go out there, highlight what you're doing to making your community better, and the essay will just flow and be so much easier for you guys to give on a daily basis. So after that, that's what I have. I know it's absolutely me talking a lot there, but hopefully I got my point across. If you guys have any questions about what I had to say, I'm here to answer questions. That's what I had.
Andy, what kind of information or documentation should teams be gathering during the course of the season?
Well, it's nice to have documented proof, and FIRST implemented in this last year a document where you had to provide to the judges what you had done, and you had to be able to prove. It's like when I did this outreach event at blank, and then you had to have some sort of proof that you did that outreach event. So whether it's a photographic a photograph from the event, you had a thank you note from the organizers, something like that. So as you're doing these things, you have to think about collecting the data so that you're able to, when it comes presentation time and the judges are starting to talk to you about this, that you're able to present and say, hey, we participated at the local farmers market, and here's a thank you letter from the organizer of that event.
Cool. Other questions for Andy? Andy, and perhaps Susan, if you're still with us, maybe you can answer this. I think I know the answer, but I work with lots of rookie teams, and this is one of the questions that they had. They wanted to know why rookie teams are excluded from this award.
Well, rookie teams are not excluded from the award as much as they can't win the chairman's award, because as we know, the chairman's award is basically it's it's a growth project, right? It's something that you build on year after year. But as a rookie, especially if you receive a NASA grant, you still have to submit a Chairman's Award essay. And in that essay for a rookie, I've always told our rookies that we help to support, I've always looked at my rookies and said, hey, when you're writing your Chairman's Award essay for NASA, because NASA requires it, you're telling them what you want to be and what you want to do. And that's why their Chairman's Award essay and their Chairman's Award for a rookie team is that Rookie All-Star Award. Because you're saying and you're telling the judges, this is who we are and this is what we want to be to become that team in the community and doing this kind of stuff.
Wow, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, to highlight what Andy's saying is this isn't like a one and done. What the judges are looking for is sustained activity over time. So they're looking for multiple years worth of contribution to the first community, to their own community. And they're looking for growing effort. What different folks have you reached out to over the course of that time? So Andy's point about a log, you don't keep a log for 1 year, you keep a log on an ongoing basis because that's what they'll look for. You started with this, you continued with this, you've added subsequently other things to continue the effort.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
We just started dipping our toes into the chairman's arena. We did it for the third time this year. We got our feedback, and what about the international? They said what we needed to work on was more international.
I am not a big fan of judges asking that and telling you that, because not every team. I said, okay, so almost every time I go to an event, and Susan can correct me if I'm, when I go way off base on this, but I'm looking at it from, we don't all have the resources and ability to do international outreach. When I talk to my kids about this, because my kids are the same way, they're like going, they hear that team that won chairman's at X event, they're supporting a team in this country and they help start FML teams in this country. And it's like going, not every team and not everybody has the ability to do that. And so when the question comes up, I work on coaching teams to say, when the question comes up, we don't have that resource to go outside. I don't have that resource to communicate and get that. So we focus a lot of our effort on new teams locally and our local community. We are looking for ways to go international, but at this time we don't have that access. And I know international seems to be a huge item, and it does separate teams very, very easily for those judges I've seen in the past.
I feel that we're doing a lot. We're working with the local SWAT. We work on the robots now. We're in the community doing PPE. We're doing, we're there. And then when we thought, oh, this is going to be a good year for us, and they go, well, you need more international. And I'm like, okay. So that's, that was our takeaway from that.
Yeah, and that's
what I've been a Chairman's Award judge about 6 times, and that is not a requirement of the Chairman's Award. There's nowhere that's in the rubric. That's a mistake made by that judging team. But let me suggest a way to address that in the future.
Sure.
So, if you have an idea of what could be done, and can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you just fine.
Okay.
I'm writing. I'm sorry. I'm
writing.
writing.
By other teams, what could be done to make a great case, you could represent why you chose to do the things that you did choose and why you chose not to do some things. So, for instance, you might say, look, we thought of the possibility of engaging an international team, but we weighed that against having a local impact, okay? Mm-hmm. And we decided consciously that, an international team was not necessarily a great relationship because it was very, very sporadic and there's a huge language barrier. But locally, we can have a huge impact with people who speak our language and that we see on a daily basis, okay? And so that really kind of justifies your decisions regarding how you do your outreach. Okay.
Well, see, like this is in Kentucky. We have 14 teams. That's it. And so Beth, our head coach Beth, is the FLL representative for First in Kentucky. So we work on starting there. We call them our farm teams.
Mhm.
And that's where we focus. There's only 14 teams in Kentucky. And
Right.
you guys have 14 teams in a city block sometimes.
Wow. That's true. That's true.
That's a good point to make, Kathy. When you write that up, tell them that.
Yeah.
That
I didn't mean to. It's like I was writing. I'm trying to keep up and write. I'm an old school. I like to write.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
writing notes.
I mean, your need is more immediate. You don't need to worry about reaching out even
Exactly.
beyond the state. You've got ample things you can do within your own state.
Or even our own county. I mean, half our county
Yeah.
is affluent. Half our county is Title III. We got Eastern Kentucky that struggles with food and housing. They can't, they have very few teams down there. That's where the Battle of the Bluegrass was around Berea, Kentucky. That was just that was there to show them what can First do for you, and having things, being international. We're trying to just be Kentucky. I think that's the main thing.
And Kathy, I've been in discussions with teams like from Northwest Minnesota, from itsy bitsy little towns, saying to me, Susan, we'll just never be able to win this because we're just this little itty bitty town, and we don't have a depressed inner city we can influence. We don't have, internationals. Your point, way beyond anything we can do at this point. And darned if, I said, look at your own community, look at your own county, write it up, the influence you're having and growing the efforts in your area, not just to grow teams necessarily, but even to engage your sponsors, engage the community, get the kids more interested in science and technology in the school system, et cetera, et cetera. The next year, they actually won a regional chairman's award, but it was how they focused what they said about what they were doing. They were doing all the right things in a very remote, tiny little town. And you just have to emphasize what's around you, what you're impacting around you, like you're starting FLL teams, but you're having an influence beyond that with the kids that you're reaching with your outreach efforts, that you may never know that, they went on and continued to take math, science. You may never know.
Point taken. Well, thank you all. That's a great discussion. Outstanding presentation by Andy. We certainly appreciate all the experience all the way around the table. Thank you all. That was really nice. Obviously, we're going to go just a few minutes over. I ask that you bear with me. And while I'm thinking about it, I do have that question that's sitting on the table that I need to answer. That being said, more cheesy music. And it's time to answer that last trivia question. As you may remember, our question was, who was the last team from the WOW Alliance? The last team from the WOW Alliance to win the Chairman's Award. And of course, your answer tonight will be First Team 2614 Mountaineer Area Robotics. They won back in 2017 at the Detroit Championship. Their presentation centered on their Mars plan. That's what they called it, the Mars plan. It was the team's initiative to grow first and a deeper appreciation for STEM in their hometown and the surrounding communities. Their presentation helped them to earn their place in the First Hall of Fame. They put together a great video. we'll try to add the video to this video, and when we post this online, so you have a chance to see it, see how they took some of the information that Andy was sharing, put it all together to tell their unique story in an amazing way. Andy, did we have any correct answers for this one?
We had one.
All right, and who was it?
That was Mike Malott.
All right, congratulations, Mike. You're the winner of another first swag bag. Woohoo! Yeehaw!
Woohoo!
See, everybody's excited.
So far, I'm really good. I don't have to worry about mail so far. I'm really good with this one so far. It's like when I drive to Cincinnati, got Jimmy covered. Mike, I'll practically throw it for my house and get Mike. So, we'll see who gets number 3. So you have to go to the post office tomorrow.
There you go. Well, we've got time for one more question tonight, and this will be our last question. And your question for tonight's final trivia is this. Across the entire suite of programs, how many mentors supported first teams during this past season? So that's something for you to think about. Again, it's tonight's final trivia question. We know that mentors are perhaps the most important part of a team. So that's why this question was put in there. Across the entire suite of first programs, how many mentors supported first teams during this past season? While you're thinking about it, let's move to our final segment. And this is going to be a brand new segment that we just put together, a new segment that puts one outstanding mentor each month. And we put them in the spotlight. So with that being said, this month's featured mentor has been involved with FIRST Robotics for the past 20 seasons. Over his long volunteer career, he has sponsored and held multiple FIRST LEGO League tournaments. He served as a judge, a robot inspector, a referee at multiple FIRST events, both in and outside of the state. He's helped to start and has mentored several FIRST LEGO League teams and FIRST Robotics teams. And he is a former Regional Volunteer of the Year and currently serves as a committee co-chair for the Buckeye Regional. He's also currently mentoring 5, that's right, you heard me say it, 5 second-year rookie teams that he helped to launch last season. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Vice President of Sustainability and Innovation Processes at Parker Hannifin, Mr. Pete Buca. Pete, thank you for joining us. Take it away.
Thanks, John Dar. I'm not quite sure what to say, but you guys all know me, and this session really is intended for students to give them some insight as to how you go from being a young person to being an engineer to being a first volunteer. You guys know all about that. Okay. So John Dar,
I'm still here.
Doing a talk. So any questions you guys have for me?
Yeah, Pete, as a matter of fact, I know for a lot of people, they'd like to know a little bit more about you and your career and how you got involved with FIRST. I personally want to know how you got involved, and more importantly, what keeps you coming back year after year.
So I got involved when I was invited to the very first Buckeye Regional event. This is about 20 years ago, as a matter of fact. And once I got involved with it, I was hooked. When you saw the effect it had on the competitors, when you saw the kinds of teams that were there, you got involved in that competition, it's really hard to turn your back on it again. And so from that point forward, I was hooked and got further and further involved with it in any way I could. What keeps me coming back is really the same thing, the kids. Of course, all the volunteers are really all my friends now. And so, none of us can do this alone. We only do this because we have the help of each other to get through it. And the satisfaction comes in the impact it has on the lives of the children that are actually playing the event. It really does change people's lives. And I think whenever I give a public speech, I always end with an appeal to people to support FIRST. I can recall being at a lawyers convention, believe it or not, where they were talking about dry law for about 3 days. And I just finished listening to a lawyer complaining about how bad kids were. For some reason, it was part of his presentation. And so when I finished my speech at the event, I said, if you're really discouraged about the way kids are turning out these days, get involved with FIRST. It'll change your entire outlook on life. You'll never be discouraged again, and you'll be hopeful the rest of your life about what's coming up in terms of the kids. Because I don't get discouraged. When I interact with FIRST kids, I realize that a lot of good's happening here, and that we have leaders that are growing in the organization, that are growing in FIRST, that will be around to solve the problems of tomorrow.
Gotcha. That is so cool. And if you don't mind me asking, who was the person who inspired you? Who was the person who was a mentor to you? Usually great mentors have had great role models. So I'm sure there was somebody who was a mentor to you.
Yeah, there was a guy named, a teacher actually, in high school at James Ford Rhodes named Richard DeColobus. He was a chemistry teacher. And Rich took a lot of us oddball, talented kids and put us under his wing and gave us a social framework to work with. Instead of being isolated, we actually found a way to hang out together. And those people I was involved with back then are still my friends today. Rich is long since retired, but he had a huge influence on my life.
Cool. Now, we've got a few mentors that are on the call with us here tonight, and I know that there will be a lot of students that will be watching the playback, the recording of this. What's the most important thing that you want those student team members to know about their mentors?
Well, I think that one of the most important things that students have to realize is that mentors are not there just for when you need help. Okay? Mentors are there for all aspects of the game. And the best way to treat a mentor is not as an occasionally used resource when you get stuck, but as a colleague throughout the entire competition. So there are people you can talk to about ideas. There are people that can teach you how to operate a machine. There are people that can talk to you about how to approach a company. They can help you with your writing. And don't wait to get in trouble before you talk to them, but make them part of your process. Treat them like a team member and colleague. And it's okay sometimes for a mentor to pick up a wrench or to write something for you. It's not the norm. It's not really what should be the normal thing that happens, but it's okay if it happens. There's no crime against it, and they're part of the team. So make them part of the team just like you would any colleague in your team. It'll work out well for you.
Very cool. I feel terrible.
Pete, this is Susan. I have a question. You had a teacher that inspired you. How did you move on from, he helped you create a group of folks you felt comfortable with, which today might have been an FRC team or an FTC team. How did you move from him inspiring you through your college career and on to your career?
Yeah, so I wasn't born a vice president. Andy wasn't born chief mentor, and John Dar wasn't born the super announcer guy, right? None of us had that role when we were younger, and I think it's hard for kids to realize or to see us as younger people. But there's still a younger person trapped inside of each of us. Okay, my family was very, very poor. We lived in a very bad neighborhood in Cleveland. We had a lot of crime in the neighborhood. We had a lot of danger in the neighborhood, and we had to suffer through a lot to get through our lives. I was the first person in my family to attend college in over 500 years. We can trace our family back at least that far. I'm a first generation American. My family was Italian, and they came over from Italy after the Second World War, and they had nothing. They're basically refugees. So it was very, very tough on us. And when I started thinking about college, I decided very early that I wanted to make things. That my dad was a carpenter, and the most joy I got was in making things. And so for me, engineering was a dream. That's exactly what I wanted to do. And that made life very easy for me. Making those decisions really put me on the course to my career. What I found out eventually was that I was an engineer. And I found that out by talking to engineers and realizing I had a lot in common with them. I thought the same way they did. I approached life the same way they did. I got the same kind of joys out of life that they did. And I was afraid of the same things they were, okay? So if you look at all the people I met in my life, I was most like the people that were engineers. That's where I belonged, okay? Some people go their entire lives without realizing what team they're on. But if you have your mentors in your team, it's a chance for you to understand who you're like. Are you like your mentors? Would you enjoy a life like theirs? Okay. And so that for me is what turned me on the engineering track. And then from there, I went on to co-op and eventually started being exposed to some really interesting problems in work, things that were stopping the work process. In some cases, stopping some huge successes. In some cases, dealing with issues that were really severe problems for mankind. And it seemed like every time I had a chance to deal with a problem, I always had an idea for a solution. And I always do tell people that when I hear about a problem or I see a challenge out there, sometimes I hear trumpets. Okay, I hear the trumpets playing in the background, and I know it's my job to go out there and fix that problem, and so I do. So when I was first exposed to FIRST, I have to tell you, I heard trumpets blaring, and I knew it was one of the things that I was given in my life to help. Okay. Now, having said that, it's been a humbling experience for me because, as an engineer, you are omnipotent, right? I have the resources of $1 billion company behind me. I have engineers that are just as talented as I am that I can do anything with. I have teams that are well composed and managed by multiple people, and there's nothing I can't accomplish in my field of expertise, right? At first, all I have are a bunch of friends who all know a little bit about something, but not about what you're trying to work on, okay? And guess what? You don't know much about it either. So we're all trying to learn together and solve a problem. And the things that I learned at FIRST were that there are problems, there are challenges that are so important to take on that you can't wait to be an expert at it. You can't wait to a time when you have complete control in your own hands and you can easily solve the problem. You have to approach those problems immediately with the team that you have at hand, okay? And guess what? You all have to figure out a way to make it happen. And by doing that, it's incredible what you can accomplish. And FIRST taught me that, not Parker. FIRST did. And I see it repeated every year. It's amazing to me how we bring ourselves together, the kids together, the volunteers together, and make these events happen, and how they're always a success. They always achieve the result desired. And the blueprint came from FIRST. I learned it from them, but the volunteers, the kids, the people I get involved with, they're my model to work with. That's how I stay involved, and that's what got me involved in it. How I became a vice president, that's a much longer story. Very boring, okay? But I always found myself at the center of problems. Things that were really, really severe problems. And I always found a way to resolve those problems, and the solutions always became very important from a business standpoint for the company. But that's how it is.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Really inspiring. Any other questions for tonight's Spotlight Mentor? Well, in that case, thanks again for joining us tonight, Pete. And congratulations on being selected our Mentor of the Month. For those of you that are out there, we want you to know that if you know of a mentor who should be recognized, please write us and tell us why. We'd love to feature them for one of our upcoming shows. Thanks again. All right, now that I've wrestled my mouse back from my dog, here's the answer to your final trivia question for the night. As you will remember, that question was, across the entire suite of programs, how many mentors supported FIRST teams during the past season? And here's your answer. According to FIRST headquarters, there were over 300,000 mentors from around the world that worked on FIRST teams during this past season. That includes more than 29,325 adult volunteers who mentored FRC teams. These mentors gave a combined total of 20 million volunteer hours to support more than 660,000 students who participated in the various FIRST programs. Andy, who came closest to the correct answer?
Said nobody even fathomed a guess.
Wow. Well, we've got more work to do. Now that you know, your job, your mission is to go out and share that great information with somebody else. Before we forget, as time runs short, I want to remind you that Ohio First needs you. The virtual roundup is your show, and our goal is to make sure that the content is both relevant and useful for the viewers. That being said, if you have an idea for a future show or a topic that you'd like to discuss further, or if your team or a member of your team is interested in being one of our featured presenters for an upcoming show, we want to hear from you. Please take a moment and post your ideas and your contact information in the chat, or contact Mr. Andy Antes at the email address that's on your screen. Oh, and by the way, be sure to tune in next month for these upcoming shows. Mentors, remember to join us at 8 o'clock Eastern on the third Thursday of every month for the Mentors Roundtable. You've heard me say this before. The Roundtable is the virtual meeting space where FRC and FTC coaches and mentors can get together to discuss those issues that are most pressing to new and veteran teams, from recruitment to fundraising to coaching techniques and more. No relevant topic is off the table. And remember, this is an adults-only meeting with content specifically developed for mentors by mentors. We hope that you'll be able to join us. The next episode will air on Thursday, July 16th, 8 p.m. Eastern. Oh, and teams, you don't want to miss this. Don't forget to join us at 8 p.m. Eastern on the fourth Thursday of every month for FRC FTC Virtual Roundup. Next month's Virtual Roundup will feature more of what you've been asking us for. We'll have more first update, more engaging student-led team presentations, informative tips and techniques, and we're going to feature another mentor. All that plus more prizes, lots of fun. Remember to mark your calendars. Our next virtual meetup will be on Thursday, July 23rd at 8 p.m. Eastern. Definitely going to be a good time. Oh, more cheesy music. And that means that we're out of time. Ohio First would like to thank tonight's distinguished guest presenters. We had Susan Lawrence, First Director of Field Operations for the Midwest region. Andy Antes was here, First Senior Mentor for Ohio. And of course, this month's featured mentor, our Mentor of the Month, Mr. Pete Buca, Vice President for Sustainability and Innovation Processes at Parker Hannifin. We'd also like to thank each and every one of you, the FRC and FTC teams, who joined us from across the region. We certainly couldn't do it without you. Tonight's edition of the Virtual Roundup was presented by Ohio First with technical support provided by Andy Antes, research and logistical support provided by Susan Lawrence. Trivia and prizes were donated by the Educational Outreach Office at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Folks, we hope that you'll be able to join us next time for our next meeting. On behalf of all of us at Ohio First, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time on the Virtual Roundup. Thanks, everybody.